The Phantom Vessel. No one had seen a human vessel in over 2 centuries. Not since the Great Purge, when the Galactic Confederation had systematically removed humanity from the stars, or so the official history claimed. The Confederation had ruled unchallenged for generations. 12 species united under one banner, one set of laws, one vision of galactic harmony. They'd spread across 17 sectors, built wonders that defied imagination, and established what their leaders proudly called the longest era of peace the cosmos has ever known. Peace built on a foundation of lies. Admiral Gentle stood on the observation deck of the Confederation flagship Eternal Vigilance, all 6 of his eyes fixed on the holographic display. His scales shimmered with stress patterns as he struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. "Run the sensor sweep again," he ordered, mandibles clicking in agitation. The junior officer, a young Pelori whose translucent skin had turned pale with fear, complied immediately. "Same results, Admiral." The vessel appeared without warning. No hyperdrive signature, no slipstream wake, no quantum disturbance. It just materialized. The ship hanging in space before them defied explanation. Sleek, midnight black with subtle crimson accents along what appeared to be weapon ports, it was massive, easily twice the size of the Confederation's largest dreadnought. Yet it had appeared silently in the heart of their most secure system, less than 300,000 kilometers from Centralis Prime, the Confederation capital. "What species designation?" Gental asked, though he already suspected the answer. The science officer, Elder Crix of the Vespid, approached with uncharacteristic hesitation. "Human design architecture, Admiral. 98.7% probability." A collective hiss rippled through the command bridge. Humans were extinct. Everyone knew that. The species that had nearly torn the galaxy apart in the Unification Wars had been confined to their home system and eventually destroyed themselves in a final catastrophic conflict. That was the history every child in the Confederation learned. "Impossible," Gental whispered, but the evidence hung before him in the cold void of space, undeniable. The communications officer's station suddenly flared with activity. "Admiral, the vessel is broadcasting something." "Audio? Visual?" "Neither, sir. It's data. Massive amounts of data flooding every frequency." Before Gental could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and changed. The ship's systems had been overridden with contemptuous ease. A single image appeared, a human face. Male by their biological standards. Weathered, with lines etched deep around eyes that seemed to burn with ancient fury. Below the face, text in perfect Confederation standard. "We remember what you tried to forget." Gentle felt the chill of primal fear crawl down his spine. "Shields up. Battle stations. Alert the defensive fleet." But the human ship made no aggressive moves. It simply hung there, a dark reminder of a history the Confederation had carefully erased. The Admiral's personal communicator chimed. "Grand Arbiter Cell demanding immediate conference, sir." Of course, the political leadership would be in chaos. A human warship appearing without warning in the capital system wasn't just a security breach. It was an ideological catastrophe. "Tell them I'll." The human ship moved. No warning, no visible propulsion. One moment it was stationary. The next it had positioned itself between the Eternal Vigilance and the nearest defense platform. Impossible speed. Impossible maneuverability. "Weapons locked, Admiral," the tactical officer shouted. "Hold fire," Gental ordered. "All vessels hold fire." The last thing they needed was to provoke whatever this was. The Confederation fleet, despite its impressive numbers, suddenly felt hopelessly outmatched. A second transmission cut through their communications, this time with audio. The voice was deep, resonant, and utterly calm, made all the more terrifying by its lack of emotion. "We gave you 2 centuries of peace. Time to grow. Time to build. Time to forget. That was our gift to you. Now we have returned to collect what is owed." The message ended. The screens returned to normal, but nothing would ever be normal again. In the halls of the Grand Conclave on Centralis Prime, chaos reigned. Representatives from all 12 member species argued, threatened, and pleaded. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for evacuation of core worlds. A few whispered about surrender to an enemy that hadn't even made its demands clear. High Commander Vex of the Confederation Security Directorate watched the pandemonium with detached interest. Unlike his fellow Arcturians, whose six-limbed bodies were typically in constant motion, Vex remained perfectly still, his silver eyes reflecting the emergency lights pulsing throughout the chamber. "You seem remarkably calm, Commander," observed Grand Arbiter Excel, the nominal leader of the Confederation. The avian politician's plumage was flattened in distress, betraying his anxiety despite his measured tone. "Panic serves no tactical purpose," Vex replied simply. "A human warship has penetrated our most secure defenses, bypassed our most advanced detection grid, and is now broadcasting threatening messages throughout the capital. If not panic, what would you suggest is the appropriate response?" Vex tilted his head slightly. "Curiosity." The Grand Arbiter's beak clacked in surprise. "Explain." "The official history states that humans destroyed themselves 213 standard years ago. Clearly, this is not accurate. Therefore, other aspects of our understanding may also be flawed." Before Excel could respond, Admiral Gentall entered the chamber, flanked by a security detail. The gathered representatives fell silent as he approached the central platform. "The vessel remains in position," he reported. "It has made no further communications or hostile actions. However, our attempts to scan its interior or weapons capabilities have failed. It's as if our sensors simply slide off its hull." "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" the Grand Arbiter asked. "We have assembled our entire home fleet. 27 capital ships, over 200 support vessels. We can attempt to neutralize this intruder, but—" He hesitated. "But you don't believe we would succeed?" Vex finished for him. Gentall's scales darkened in acknowledgement. "The technological gap appears significant." A new voice cut through the chamber. "Perhaps we should consider what they want." All eyes turned to Saren Voss, the Confederation's chief diplomat. The Lumidian's natural bioluminescence pulsed with soft blue light as she approached the center of the room. "They claim we owe them something," she continued. "Perhaps we should ask what debt they believe remains unpaid." "We owe the humans nothing," hissed Counselor Draz, an elder Saurian whose species had been among the founding members of the Confederation. "They were warmongers, dangerous primitives who supposedly died out centuries ago," Vex interrupted. "Yet here they are." The chamber erupted again into arguments. Vex quietly extracted himself from the chaos and made his way to a secure terminal in an antechamber. Using his highest clearance codes, he initiated a search that he had long suspected would yield interesting results. QUERI, Humanity, Historical RETORDS, UNREDACTED, Authorization, GMA9. The system paused longer than it should have before responding. ACCESDNID, Special Authorization Required. Contact Directorate of Historical Truth. Vex smiled faintly. The Directorate of Historical Truth, the Confederation's propaganda ministry by another name. His suspicions deepened. He entered a new set of codes, emergency override protocols known only to the highest echelons of the Security Directorate, and waited. The screen flickered, then displayed a single message. Access Guarantee. Warning. ACCSSing the AC files is to liaison under Confederation law. Proceed. Vex pressed his palm to the scanner, confirming his identity and his willingness to commit what his government considered treason. The files that appeared made his silver eyes widen slightly, the only outward sign of his shock. The truth about humanity, carefully hidden for centuries, was far more complex than the sanitized history taught to Confederation citizens. Humans hadn't destroyed themselves in a final war. They had been systematically pushed back, confined, and then, according to these files, subjected to orbital bombardment by early Confederation forces. But that wasn't all. A final notation, added by someone whose identity had been purged from the record. Operation not confirmed successful. Human survival remains possible. Recommend ongoing surveillance of Earth quarantine zone. The date on that recommendation, nearly 2 centuries ago. For 200 years, the Confederation had known that humanity might still exist, hidden away in their home system, which had been declared a prohibited zone under the pretense of dangerous instability following self-inflicted nuclear devastation. Another lie. As Vex continued reading, he found references to something called the Sleeper Protocol. Details were sparse, but what he could piece together suggested a contingency plan. Human agents embedded throughout Confederation space, programmed to awaken if humanity ever returned. A coldness settled in Vex's core. If these files were accurate, the human warship might be just the beginning. The enemy could already be among them, waiting for activation. His personal communicator chimed with an encrypted alert. New information about the human vessel. It had moved again, this time positioning itself directly above Centralus Prime's primary defense grid control station. Still no hostile action, but the message was clear. We could strike if we wanted to. As Vex prepared to return to the Grand Conclave chamber, his terminal chimed with an incoming message. No sender identification, just a single line of text. Ask yourself why your leaders fear our return more than they fear our weapons. Vex stared at the message for precisely 3 seconds before deleting it. He would need to investigate how an outside communication had breached his secure terminal, but that could wait. For now, he had a more pressing concern. Someone in the highest levels of the Confederation government had ordered the attempted extinction of an entire species, and then hidden that fact for centuries. Now those humans had returned with technology that made the Confederation fleet look primitive by comparison. This wasn't just a security crisis, it was a reckoning. And as Vex stepped back into the chamber of panicking leaders, he wondered which would prove more dangerous. The human warship hanging in orbit, or the secrets it had come to expose. Awakening. Captain Area Nix couldn't sleep. For the 3rd night in a row, dreams had plagued her. Fragments of memories that couldn't possibly be hers. A blue sky unlike the purple-hued atmosphere of her homeworld. Faces she'd never seen. Words in a language she shouldn't understand. She stared at her reflection in the polished surface of her quarters aboard the Confederation security vessel Swift Justice. Her features were Taurian, the ridged forehead, the copper-toned skin, the amber eyes. She had served the Confederation with distinction for 15 years. Had received the Stellar Cross for her actions during the Rimward Rebellion. So why did she suddenly feel like a stranger in her own skin? The emergency alert jolted her from her thoughts. All officers to battle stations. The human vessel had moved again. When she reached the bridge, the main viewer showed the situation. The black ship had positioned itself directly between Centralus Prime and its sun. From the planet's surface, it would appear as a small eclipse, a symbolic darkening of the Confederation's brightest star. Status, she demanded. No weapons charged, Captain, her first officer reported. But they're broadcasting again. This time to every communication device in the system. On screen. The image appeared. The same weathered human face, but now he spoke. For 2 centuries, you have lived on the foundations of genocide. Your peace built on our supposed extinction. Your unity forged in the fires that you rained upon Earth. We did not destroy ourselves. You tried to destroy us. Aria felt a strange resonance with these words, as if they touched something buried deep within her. We retreated. We adapted. We evolved. Not in comfort as you did, but in the crucible of survival. And now we have returned, not as conquerors, but as the reckoning your ancestors feared. The face was replaced by footage, ancient recordings showing Confederation ships bombarding a blue-green planet, billions dead in a matter of hours, a sanctioned extermination hidden from history. We offer you a choice that you never offered us: acknowledgement or annihilation. You have 3 planetary rotations to decide." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. "Captain," her first officer prompted. "Your orders?" Arya opened her mouth to respond when a searing pain lanced through her head. Images flashed before her eyes, not the sterile halls of the Confederation Academy, where she believed she'd grown up, but a domed habitat on a ruined world. Not training exercises, but preparation. A mission. A purpose. Secure channel to High Commander Vex, she managed, fighting through the pain. Immediately, Vex was not surprised when the call came through. He had spent the last 26 hours reviewing personnel files, focusing on officers with mysterious backgrounds or unexplained gaps in their histories. Captain Arya Nix had been third on his list of suspects. "You're experiencing the activation sequence," he said without preamble. "The memories are returning." Arya's face on the screen showed shock, quickly masked by professional composure. "How did you?" "I've accessed the unredacted files about humanity, about the Sleeper Protocol." She was silent for a moment. "Then you know what I am." "I suspect. A human agent, surgically altered to appear Taurian, with implanted memories and programmed loyalty to the Confederation, designed to activate when humanity returned. And now that I'm activated, what do you intend to do? Have me arrested? Executed?" Vex tilted his head, studying her. "I intend to listen. You have information I need." Arya laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "My memories are fragments. Chaos. I don't know what's real anymore. But you know more than we do about humanity's true intentions. Is this truly about justice or conquest?" Before she could answer, an alert sounded on both their communication channels. The Grand Arbiter was calling an emergency session of the Confederation leadership. The human vessel had deployed smaller craft, dozens of them, heading toward various points throughout the system. "They're not attacking," Vex noted, watching the tactical display. "They're positioning themselves near communication hubs, defense grids, transportation nexuses, control points," Arya said, her voice distant. "They're preparing for." Her eyes widened as another memory surfaced. The awakening. The Grand Conclave chamber was a storm of accusations and fear. Representatives shouted over one another, while military advisors presented increasingly desperate defense strategies. The human ships had established positions throughout the system, yet had taken no hostile action. "We should strike now, before more of them arrive," Admiral Gental insisted. "With what?" countered diplomat Saren. "Their technology clearly surpasses ours. A first strike would be suicide." Grand Arbiter Xel raised his wings for silence. "We have confirmed the authenticity of the historical footage they broadcast. Our ancestors did attempt to eradicate humanity. Perhaps we owe them reparations." "We owe them nothing," Counselor Draz hissed. "The decisions of our ancestors were justified. Humans were unpredictable, violent, impossible to control within the harmony of the Confederation." High Commander Vex entered the chamber, Captain Arya at his side. Their presence together, the head of security and a starship captain who should have been at her post, drew immediate attention. "The humans aren't here for reparations," Vex announced. "And they aren't here for conquest either." All eyes turned to him. "They're here for their people." Confusion rippled through the assembly until Arya stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice had changed. The accent different, the cadence altered. Project Infiltration began 50 years after the bombardment of Earth. Genetically modified human children, surgically altered to pass as members of various Confederation species, were placed throughout your society. Deeper than agents or spies, they were made to believe they were one of you. Shock and horror spread across the faces of the assembled leaders. "Impossible," Traz spat. "Our genetic screening would have been looking for humans as you knew them," Arya interrupted. "Not as we became. The children believe they were Taurians, Vespid, Arcturians, their implanted memories perfect, their loyalty to the Confederation absolute, until the signal came to wake them. How many? Cell asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Area smiled, and for the first time, everyone could see it, the human beneath the Taurian features. Thousands. In your military, your government, your research facilities, your families. For generations, we have been watching from inside your society, guiding it subtly toward the moment of revelation. The implications hit like a physical blow. The Confederation's leadership stared at one another with new suspicion. Anyone could be human. Anyone. What do they want? Admiral Gentall demanded. Recognition. Vex answered before Area could speak. The truth acknowledged. Their right to exist affirmed. And their place in the galaxy restored, Area added. Not as enemies, not as subjects, but as equals. A new transmission cut through the chamber systems. The human face again, but now identified. Admiral Thomas Chen, Earth Recovery Fleet. The demonstration is complete, he stated calmly. Our agents have confirmed their awakening throughout Confederation space. We now control your primary defense systems, communication networks, and transportation infrastructure. We could destroy you. Instead, we offer coexistence. The terms appeared on screens throughout the chamber. 1. Full acknowledgement of the attempted genocide of humanity. 2. Restoration of Earth and the Sol system as sovereign human territory. 3. Integration of awakened human citizens with full rights and protections. 4. Shared technological development moving forward. 5. New mutual defense treaty against threats from beyond known space. This last point, Admiral Chen continued, is perhaps the most crucial. While we've been hiding, evolving, preparing, we've discovered what lies in the darkness between galaxies. You will need us in the coming decades, as we, despite our strength, will need you. The transmission ended, leaving the Confederation leadership in stunned silence. Counselor Draz was the first to recover. This is blackmail. Coercion. This is survival, Vex countered. Theirs and ours. Area, or whatever her true name was, stepped forward. I have memories of 2 lives now. One as a loyal Confederation officer. One as a human child, prepared for a mission spanning generations. Both are real to me. Both matter. She looked around the chamber. That's what humanity is offering. Not replacement, not subjugation, but integration. A stronger whole than either of us alone. Grand Arbiter Cell spread his wings slowly, a gesture of troubled acceptance. We will need time to consider. You have 3 planetary rotations, Area reminded him. And I believe they're being generous with that timeline. High Commander Vex stood alone on the observation deck, watching the human vessels positioned throughout the Centralist system. For ships that had crossed whatever vast distance separated Earth from Confederation space, they showed no signs of battle damage or wear. Their technology was clearly centuries beyond current Confederation capabilities. You're not surprised by any of this, Area said, joining him by the view panel. Her posture had changed subtly since her awakening. More fluid, less rigidly military. I've had suspicions about our official history for years, Vex admitted. Too many inconsistencies. Too many redacted files. Yet you never investigated before now. Curiosity has limits in a society built on carefully constructed narratives. Until today, when that ship appeared and made those narratives untenable. Area studied him. You're taking this remarkably well for someone who just learned his civilization is built on genocide and infiltrated by thousands of disguised humans. Vex turned his silver eyes to her, perhaps because I understand the human perspective better than most. Understanding dawned on Area's face. You're one of us. So it would seem, Vex said calmly. Though my awakening is incomplete. More like an intellectual recognition than the emotional reconnection you describe, perhaps because I'm older, from an earlier phase of the program. Does the Grand Arbiter know? No, and he doesn't need to yet. What matters now is preventing panic and guiding the Confederation toward acceptance. The evidence of humanity's technological superiority is undeniable. Fighting would be futile. It's not just about the technology, Arias said, looking out at the stars. Humanity has evolved in other ways too. The isolation, the struggle to survive after the bombardment, it forced changes. Mental capabilities, communal consciousness, perception beyond normal spacetime. Vex considered this. The true reason the Confederation feared humanity was never about violence. It was about potential. Humans adapt too quickly, evolve too unpredictably. We threatened the careful balance of power. And now that balance is irreparably altered, the question is whether the Confederation can adapt as humans have learned to do. A communication chime interrupted them. Admiral Chen requesting direct communication with the Confederation leadership. When they returned to the Grand Conclave chamber, they found the representatives had reached a fragile consensus. The terms would be accepted, not out of trust or reconciliation, but out of pragmatic recognition of the new reality. As Admiral Chen's image appeared before the assembled leadership, Vex noticed something he had missed before. Behind the human admiral stood other figures, representatives of species unknown to the Confederation. Allies humanity had made during their centuries of exile. "We accept your terms," Grand Arbiter Excel announced formally, "and request the beginning of diplomatic relations between the Confederation and humanity." Chen nodded solemnly. "A wise decision. There is much we have to teach one another, and much we must prepare for together." "Prepare for what?" Admiral Zhen Tal asked suspiciously. Chen's weathered face grew grave. "During our time in the shadows, we encountered evidence of something moving between the galaxies, something ancient, patient, and hungry. Your scientists have noted the unusual dark matter readings at the galactic rim." The Confederation representatives exchanged alarmed glances. Those readings had been classified at the highest levels. "This is not just about rectifying historical wrongs," Chen continued. "This is about ensuring there is a future for all our peoples. Humanity remembers what you tried to forget, and because we remember, we have prepared." As the implications of this new threat settled over the chamber, Aria felt the last pieces of her human memory lock into place. Their return wasn't just about justice or reclamation. It was about protection. Humanity had evolved not just to survive, but to defend. A shield for a galaxy that had once tried to exterminate them. The irony wasn't lost on her. The species deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous to exist within the carefully balanced Confederation might now be its only hope against a greater threat. Not conquerors, not victims, but guardians. Outside, visible from the towering spires of Centralus Prime, the human warship adjusted its position, allowing the system's sun to shine fully once more on the Confederation capital. A symbolic gesture, not the beginning of darkness, but the dawn of a new era. One forged not in the fires of extinction, but in the light of truth and the promise of shared survival. Humanity had returned to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.